Aftab is here. Hey, Aftab is missing. Yeah, wait, let me find out.
Hello, this is Nisar Maimun. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I can hear you as well.
Hello. Oh Lord, life is tough. You disappeared on us. हाँ जी, कहाँ हैं आप?
बस सर साइनिंग इन कर रहा हूँ।
अच्छा चले, okay, good. Okay, folks, let us begin. Welcome to the second PIDE webinar on finance. I think as I told you, we'll take up this subject more and more because it's a very important subject to discuss after 70 years, what's happening to our financial markets. So let me just quickly give you a very quick summary of what we discussed last time to lay the stage for Mr. Mirza to speak. Last time what happened was we discussed the situation. We came to the conclusion that the stock market is very, very thin, largely untraded stocks, very few scrip that trades, a very shallow stock market, only 200,000 investors out of 200 million people. So stock market is probably going to be overtaken by the corona very soon. There'll be more corona patients than people participating in the stock market, which is saying a lot. Secondly, we learned that the stock market is heavily overregulated and confused regulation. Third thing we learned was stock market is heavily taxed in very strange ways, so people don't like to invest. So the regulation is, and the taxation regime is terrible. We've got good electronics, but the human systems are where we fail. So that, to my mind, is a quick summary, and I hope it's correct. If it's not, please, give me, correct me. But now let me introduce a new panel. We've got Mr. Khalid Mirza. I think Khalid Mirza is known to everybody. He is the person who set up the Securities and Exchange Commission. He is the person who also set up the Competition Commission of Pakistan. He did a very good job in both places so that people still remember him as the person who really did a lot of work to make the market work. But unfortunately, as everything happens in Pakistan, we kill things as they are beginning to happen. So I thought it would be very good to have Khalid Mirza tell us the full state of the situation. Plus, Khalid Mirza right now is also the chairman of the policy board of the stock market, of the stock exchange. So he has a lot to say. Unfortunately, we couldn't get hold of any Chinese. It is also a conundrum, and Khalid can explain it to us. Why have the Chinese taken over the market when they're not interested? So Khalid Sahab, there are a lot of questions for you, and I hope that you will be able to answer them. So over to you, Khalid Sahab. I'll give you the floor.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I'm not sure whether it'll be equal to answer all the questions that you are raising, but I'll try. First thing, I'd like to give an answer to the question that is embodied in this webinar, which is, what was it? Why is the market, can it ever become something or not, okay? And actually, to be very honest and frank with you, the short answer is no, not under the present circumstances, okay? That's what I see very clearly as a matter of fact. I remember when I was chairman SECP, and there was this whole question of which I had actually done, imposed a laga, which is a small fee on stock exchange transactions in order to be able to fund the SECP independently, because I wanted ICCP to be financially independent of the government and not to rely on some subventions from the federal budget. And there was a threat at that time that the stock exchanges would go on strike. If Harun would remember, he was with me there in the SECP. Okay, and Shaukat asked me, "What would you do if they go on strike?" I said, "I have under the Securities and Exchange Ordinance the power to close down stock exchanges, and I intend to close down the Karachi Stock Exchange." So he was a little shocked by that. He said, "Why would you do that? What would happen?" I said, nothing will happen to your economy if for 6 months or a year there is no stock exchange in Pakistan. And that position holds true today. Okay, I have to say that at the moment, in fact, I would say that right now the situation is worse than what it was then. Okay, and the fact of the matter is that there are two pillars of the financial system, because the question that you posed for the financial system, but I'm going to basically concentrate on the stock market. Now, as you know, Nadeem, I'm not an erudite person, so, and I didn't have any slave to help me make a PowerPoint presentation. I'm technologically challenged, as you know.
Okay. You should have told us, but we would have been your slaves. Don't worry.
So I will try to say what I can. It's off the cuff and it's a little blunt. I hope that people don't mind that. Well, there'll be some people who might be offended by what I have to say. But frankly speaking, if I'm not frank, then I've got nothing. Okay, I don't have any statistics to offer you. Frankly speaking, statistics lie a lot. I also have this what I have to say is not based on any textbook or any reading of any journals, which are very fair on the subject of the capital markets. This is basically me speaking from my experience. Okay. And from what I've seen across the globe. Now, the problem is that if you remember the Danish philosopher Kierkegaard, okay, he said that whatever you know, your life has to be, what you know is you know it by looking backwards, but you have to live forwards, okay? And that is the basic disconnect we are all faced with. So, I mean, whatever I say, good, bad, indifferent, is actually enmeshed in this disconnect. And I'm more likely to be wrong than right, is what I'm trying to say. But be that as it may, you asked me, I didn't invite myself here. And I'd like to say whatever I want to say. Now, broadly speaking, if you look at the financial system, I mean, in any country, there are two parts to it. I mean, there is a risk-averse part, which is the banking part, okay? And there is the risk-taking part, which is the capital markets and non-banking. And there are two pillars of the financial system. In Pakistan, the banking system works off a fashion. Fine. I mean, it's not got too much of a reach. There's not too much inclusiveness, but it is there. It is highly, highly over-regulated, and virtually these banks are completely under the tutelage of the State Bank of Pakistan. They can't breathe with the permission of the State Bank. So, I mean, but there is some kind of a banking system that exists, and we have to be thankful for that. But when it comes to non-banking and capital markets, it's either non-existent or it is egregious. I mean, it's simply unworkable, okay? And there are very few elements in the non-banking of Pakistan or the capital markets of Pakistan that are actually working. yeah, I don't have to tell an economist like Nadine that when it comes to the financial system, the essentials of a market, of a capital market are, I mean, what they're based on, what they're rooted in is a macroeconomic stability, efficacious financial institutions, sound corporate governance, and empowered, competent, and independent regulators. None of these things exist in Pakistan right now. Okay, they may have for some short period here and there, but they're just not there. So the basics don't exist. Nonetheless, since we're talking primarily about the risk-taking part of the financial system, okay, there could be a way to get that going. But if you see capital markets, which are basically a system by which you mobilize and allocate resources, that's not happening in Pakistan at present. There are hardly any new issues. There was only one about a week ago. After great difficulty, one was approved by the SECP. I don't know what took them that long, but nonetheless it was for about 77.5 crores, or was it 72 crores? I forget now. There are hardly any new issues. As you pointed out, volumes are shrinking, and there's no financing of stock trades. There's no securities borrowing, so the market is just functioning in a sort of a vacuum. Okay, the price discovery is questionable. Manipulation is likely, though we haven't identified where and how. Okay, the Pakistan Stock Exchange is a monopoly. So are CDC and the National Clearinghouse. And there is no competition in the market. I mean, it is a market sans competition. Okay, so the very heart of the market is not there, right? So what do you expect? The investors, the so-called UINs, are reducing by the day. The intermediaries, I'm talking about stockbrokers, when the three stock exchanges was quote unquote, I don't believe it was a merger, but some kind of you reduced, you sort of delicensed two stock exchanges and one remained. There were about 450 stockbrokers. Now you're down to 203. And if this new stockbrokers regime is implemented without some of the changes that have been recommended, they're likely to be reduced down to a handful. Compare that with India, where you have 30,000 or so stockbrokers, and scores of others which are sub-brokers. Okay, now so you have the investment banking, underwriting, discount houses absent or ineffective, and mutual funds and pension funds inconsequential. So you have a market which is not functioning either on the primary side or the secondary side. The critical aspects are the fact that there are no new issues, the fact that volumes are shrinking, the fact that there are monopolies. Wherever you look in the capital market, you see a monopoly, and the ills of a monopoly becoming very clear. Okay, and you don't have another critical aspect, which is the investment banks, which is the heart of non-banking are investment banks in different and different functions that are done by investment banks. And most importantly, what investment banks do is the bringing of new issues to the market and placing them. Okay, so they are the ones which really are what, in fact, some writers have said, which I saw somewhere or the other, that this is a market by itself if it functions, the investment bank. Now, we don't have that, unfortunately. We have only, out of about 33, I think, non-banking financial institutions which you have in Pakistan, okay, I think, and if you exclude that one that was just merged of Sindh Bank, then you are left with 32. There are only about 3 which are investment finance companies in Pakistan. Okay, so this is something that one has to look at. Now, what are the causes of all this? Why is this a disaster here? Why does Nadeem say for 70 years and we have ended up with this? And in fact, I'll be very honest with you, what it was in 2002 and 2003, today is not looking better. It could be looking worse. What are the causes? Now, I'm going to be very frank and blunt with you. One is total and complete government apathy to the capital market. I'm not only referring to the politicos in the Ministry of Finance. I'm referring to the mandarins of the Ministry of Finance. I'm referring to the variety of henchmen that exist or surround the Ministry of Finance. None of them is concerned about the capital market. Okay, I don't see that at all. My conversations with them, whenever I've had that, there's a blank look on their face. There's a look that says, why is this? Why are we being bothered by all this? Okay. That if they're only concerned that there should be no problems that they have to deal with. So that is one. And unfortunately, this lot in the government are also captured, if I may use the expression, by certain market players who use them in all sorts of ways. Okay. In fact, some of the senior appointments in the ACCP are political bargaining that takes place with these players. आज उसका बंदा लगाया, कल इसका बंदा लगाएंगे, इसको ये करेंगे, and I can give details pertaining to myself also, but that I can do later. Okay, and then you have the fact that the intermediaries, and I'm referring particularly to the stockbrokers, which are becoming less. Okay, but let's come to the causes. One I told you was the government apathy. Second was the SECP itself, the regulator, which is in any developing country, the most important institution for the development of the market is the securities regulator. Not only does the securities regulator play the role of a policeman, but it's also a father figure, he's also a monitor of the market. He's also a promoter of and a foster. He fosters the market through regulatory positioning. The fact is that our Securities and Exchange Commission has completely been prostituted by the government and some of its agencies. Okay, and they are also captured by certain market elements who I know for a fact that those market elements have connections with the international mafia, the global mafia. So you have an SECP, at least there were two chairmen that I knew of in the past, not the current chairman, he's a pretty decent guy, no problems there, but with him as a person, who were actually connected with these elements. And in fact, it was the global mafia that was actually running, if you like, the SECP, okay? Now with this kind of, do you at all wonder why Nadeem has said, has happened, that the market has gone down, the market is not there, and all those things which I pointed out have actually happened, okay? Then the other is that this institution defines itself by its incompetence and lack of professional capacity. I'm not saying all the officials there are bad or whatever, that's not the case at all. But during the period 2013 to 2018, okay, there was a whole lot of people that were, as it were, injected into the SECP, who were either political hacks or total nincompoops. And they define the SECP because they are the ones that actually are able to have their sway in the SECP. I must say the present chairman is doing his best to deal with that situation, and he deserves to be encouraged in that direction. But the fact is that we have a situation where you have a thoroughly, not only incompetent, but I would say an egregious regulator, okay, that the decisions of the SECP, the judicial decisions of the SECP are sometimes laughable. They are inconsistent, so to that extent, they break the law. Okay, and the staff there, primarily, I'm talking about the people that I just mentioned, are unhelpful. They are overbearing. They have a ruler-like attitude. They are not, as when this institution was set up, the motto is not firm, helpful, and fair, which was the motto at that time. It's now become something completely different. The people whom I hired at that time, who were pretty good, I can tell you, some of them have turned into monsters now. I don't recognize them. Okay, so you have this, and you also have because of that recruitment that took place during 2013 to 2018, the very poor recruitment that occurred. Okay, it's also overstaffed. And the most important aspect of any securities regulator, even more important than regulation, regulators are supposed to make regulation, implement and enforce regulation. Regulation has to be done with some kind of concurrence with the government or some authority like the policy board in between the government and the SECP. But when it comes to enforcement, that is totally the SECP's domain. And this is where there is utmost failure. Okay, there's total failure. Now the SECP is making strides towards automating itself, end-to-end automation, etc., which is fine. I mean, which is very good. But if you look at that, you'll find that a lot is being done. But the question is, it is like angur. I mean, what are you talking about? Okay, you have people who's going to run that. And the most important thing the SECP is supposed to do is market surveillance, okay, and enforcement. Now the LEAP system which they are trying to put in place relegates this to a secondary position, this aspect, whereas this should be, in my view, number one. I'm not that concerned about the fancy technological tools. I'm more concerned about using those tools for the proper, if you like, regulation of the market and enforcement applied against market manipulation. Now, is that happening? Okay. And I can tell you, I can see Asad has also joined me. He's my colleague on the policy board. Okay. We don't see that very clearly in the policy board, at least, which is why nobody likes us in the policy board. Okay. It's because we are trying to do something which goes against their grain. Okay. So now you have these onerous regulations which have been put in place again during that same period, 2013 to 2018, which was a disaster for Pakistan's capital market. The type of regulations that have been made, they are sitting like a stone on every sector in the capital market and non-banking. They just can't breathe. Okay, and so we have a situation where you have a monopoly, the stock exchange. You have smothered the capital market and the non-banking aspects, all of them. Okay, and then we can sit back in our drawing rooms and have a cup of tea or whatever other drink one wants, and say that well this market is not going anywhere. Of course, it's not going anywhere. You're making sure it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, then you have this. Not only that, the laws that were made, flawed. I mean, Angrezi galat. No, concepts are not clear. One thing contradicts another. Right? They are the most silly laws any country has had. This Securities Act and the company law that was done during that period deserves to be trashed. We in the policy board have sat down with the SECP, I have to say, and more than 100 amendments is what we plan to do. My own view was we should scrap it completely, go back to the 1984 ordinance, which was perfectly all right, and make whatever little improvements you need to do. But that's not what we did, because that would be something that would be perhaps politically difficult to achieve. So, and then you have a Securities Act and you have a Futures Act, and none of those acts allow anything to actually happen. So the markets are not functioning because the markets have been smothered. They're just not there. You don't allow them room. You don't allow them the space to actually function. And then, now some chartered accountants present may not perhaps like this, but you have an audit oversight board, okay? Now the purpose of creating the oversight board, or many countries you have that after the disasters that took place, this Enron and WorldCom and so on, and you started with, and Satyam in India, you started with the US PCAOB, okay? And the idea was that this should be the regulator of the accounting profession, the audit profession, and it should be above it. And they should regulate not only the people who are auditing, but the different auditing bodies themselves, and setting the standards, etc., and doing it on its own without reference to anyone. That is how it was conceived to be, because it was felt that when, and that happens anywhere, because this business of self-regulation, as a wit once said, the difference between regulation and self-regulation is the difference between importance and self-importance. So, I mean, it's self-regulation we have seen, it has collapsed globally. So this business was taken out of self. What our board has done is, under our law, is that it's actually a supernumerary body that rests on ICAP. Okay, so it rests on the quality assurance program of ICAP. Okay, so it is the regulator largely the regulation of auditors. It seems to me, unless I'm wrong, to be if you like, continues to be self-regulated to a large extent. Now, so we are, as usual, whatever we do it on the surface. We can say to the world, we have an audit oversight board. Does it really do the kind of oversight of audits which it is supposed to do? Okay, that's a different issue. Maybe I'm wrong in what I'm saying, but to me, the way I look at it when I see it, what was to be achieved has not really been achieved. And why I am emphasizing this is because for disclosure, which is actually the bedrock of modern regulation, responsible, reliable audits are a key. And we have not created the kind of institutional setup to make that happen. Maybe it does, but and maybe the jury is out of the box, has not yet come back, because we have this thing is still working, and still we'll have to see whether it actually works or not. Now the question arises, the last thing which I want to deal with, and I've talked too much. I don't like giving these long homilies, and frankly, it's like talking to myself, particularly in a Zoom situation. Okay, now, what is it that needs to be done? What is it that we should do in order that we get somewhere? Something we are trying to do in the policy board, at least. We are trying to get rid of this onerous regulation. We are trying to get the SECP to look at things from the point of view of, if you like, disclosure and the point, and letting the market work. Let them work. I know that my colleague Asad, who's here, I can see, is a big proponent of that, and I totally agree with him. That is that let people, why do we have to tell them what to do? We should only be creating a frame and let them function. And it should be disclosure-based, but it's not merit-based, which is that you should not be intervening in transactions yourselves. You should allow the market itself to work. And this is, Nadeem, very much in keeping with your philosophy when you were chairman of the the Planning Commission, if you recall, okay, that to take the software approach rather than the hardware approach and let people in the market actually do what they have to do rather than us doing something for them. Okay, then so the rationalizing and simplifying of regulations, the business of the other is we have to get rid of these monopolies. We have to encourage the setting up of other stock exchanges, of other CDs, of the depositories, of other clearing houses. At the moment, it seems to me the SECP has put a stopper to all that. They seem to be wedded to this monopoly, and I can talk about it later after people have made their comments. There can't be a bigger disservice to the capital market in Pakistan than the setting up of one stock exchange, one CDC, one NCCCPL. It will not work. It's going to push the market back. And what did you do? When they set up this one exchange, I met the then chairman, Mr. Hijazi, and I said, please do one thing. Put somebody in charge of this stock exchange as the chief executive that has fire in his belly, that can make things work, that is self-motivated, otherwise it won't work. No, he got a Katha Angrez and he put him over there. Okay, fine man, very good, it's all right, but he's totally out of his depth here. He couldn't deal with the legacies here, okay? And okay, now you have a fine person. He's a very background is good, decent, you know. He was head of BMA, which was a merchant bank of sorts. Okay, fine. More of a consultant than anything else. He knows the market and so on and so forth. Okay, but he's a well-suited, brim, ties, good person. Okay, let's see. As I said, the jury is out. We'll have to. We'll have to see what happens, but it doesn't fit the bill entirely. And he's a friend of mine, by the way. So I mean, I wouldn't like to say I know the family very well. So now you have this situation. This monopoly must go. And and they are not going to do anything about this. I can tell you, the powers that be, in cahoots with the elements in the stock market, will not let that happen. I'm sorry, if you give me just a second, I want to finish this because I can't take it. Okay, now so we have that. Then you have to revamp the regulator. You have got to get rid of the staffing dross, which is prevalent over there, and you've got to get these people to build their capacity, their understanding. That needs money to be spent on training. Okay, but first get rid of the dross, and then get the right kind of people in, like what was done in 2000, into 2001. We got rid of 85 staff of the old corporate law authority. Then we hired 40 or 50 people from the outside, which led the change within the SECP. Something like that has to be replicated again, maybe in a different form, but that has to be done. Okay, then this business of financing and the business of lending and borrowing of securities. And frankly speaking, I am, and I'm going on record with you right now, I'm a supporter of Badla. I see nothing wrong with Badla. By 2003, we had removed the systemic sting out of Badla. Somehow our people don't like the word Badla. It reminds them of Hawala or God knows what. Yes, I know Badla's origins are in the unofficial market, and we are all aware of that. But by that time, we had regulated it. It was good. Later on, you went helter-skelter and you finished it. You squashed it through all kinds of measures. You have at that time, our market was the envy of Southeast Asia because of the amount of trading which was done here. the extent of trading that was done here, the liquidity here, the price discovery here, which is not there now because there's no financing. Okay, so the market is bereft of financing. And then they quote, oh, India did away with Badla. They have not the ghost of an idea that the Indian Badla was a contango, ours was a repo. India's Badla was done when Bombay Stock Exchange was T plus 28, okay? And it was in that context that it was there. They first put in margin financing, they first put in futures, and then they did away with Badla, not like us, okay? So we have that. Then we have to promote the integrity of the market. Okay, and we are talking about price discovery, settlements, everything. No, I'm not saying it's not working, but all I'm saying is the integrity of the market is important, that needs to be cherished and that needs to be developed. And then if you want the market to grow, okay, then they have got to get it into their head. It is not the supply, it's not the demand that creates a market. Any market in the world, it's the supply of securities. And the supply of securities comes from venture capital. It comes from convertibles. It comes from securitization. Those are the things that you need to promote. You need to bring about. Are we doing this or are we not? Okay. And the answer is a big no. Venture capital, I had to struggle to get them to agree to some basics that would promote venture capital. Okay, the other things is not even on the table. Okay, and I can talk for hours of how the Indian market was developed as a result of the convertibles, as a result of securitization. I'm not talking about the fancy securitization that was done in the US. I'm talking at the very basic level, the wraparound, thing. So this is our situation right now, insofar as to answer the question that the Nadeem raised. Why are we still here where we are? Can we do without all this? Yes, we can very easily without it. We can just close it down and start all over again after a few months. But this is the heck of it, that we are in this situation because we have not taken this seriously. This business of mobilization of resources and allocation of resources on a risk-adjusted basis is something foreign to us. We don't really understand it. We don't really know it. We care a damn about it. Okay, now that's all I had to say for the moment. And later, towards the end of it, I will give some other stories to you, perhaps, of what happened in the neighboring country, how they did develop their market. Okay.
Thank you, Khalid. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure listening to you. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have the enabling legislation. We don't have the capacity. We don't have competition. We don't have instruments. What can I say? This seems to be like the story of Pakistan. When we dealt with sugar, it's the same story. It's the same story everywhere. We hate to think our way through things. We're in a rush to do things and do them badly. So let me bring in Aftab Ahmed Sheikh, who used to be, Aftab Ahmed Sheikh Chaudhry, sorry. He used to be the stock market MD. He is a very competent man, knows a lot about regulation. Aftab Saab, you tell us your story. Why did you fail to create a market? Aftab Saab, are you there? Can you hear me? Aftab Saab, can you hear me? I don't think he's there then. Okay, then we'll wait for him. Haroon Sharif is here, the former Minister for Investment. He used to be the Stock Exchange Commissioner. He knows a lot about, with Khalid Mirza, they were together as a team. He knows a lot about the market too. So Haroon, can you please tell us, what can we blame you for? What can we blame you for? Please tell us.
Well, you can blame us for a lot. And I think Khalid Mirza has summed everything. I would like to take more of a outsider or a political economy view to some of the things which have been said. I would, having worked with Khalid when SECP was being created some 20 years back, when I look back, two things I think will be useful to reflect upon. First of all, I genuinely believe that neither the market nor the government was ready for this change. It was basically done under a budget support of Asian Development Bank, like many other reforms. So we need to look at it that when we take actions, what Mirza Saab has pointed out, there is no constituency to this particular reform. And when we were actually doing it, I spoke to two of my academic colleagues at the London School of Economics, Lord Desai and Mushtaq Khan, a fine economist, used to be at Cambridge at that time. So the first question they raised was that who is your constituency which is demanding a change in financial market? So when I look back, I think perhaps they were right, because the bureaucrats and the politicians never understood it. Bureaucrats basically hated it because their powers were being shifted to a new regulator, and market was captured by a few, and they never liked it. So as the money from ADB finished, the task managers of ADB all get promoted, and as Khalid Mirza has said, the people started capturing the SCCP and the overall situation. So I think we need to see that when we take these decisions without having any ownership, particularly of the people in power. I don't blame people in power, because my little stint in the cabinet last year, I think there's a genuine lack of understanding. There is a genuine lack of competency in bureaucracy. But somebody has to basically, own a reform to be sustained and build consensus that this is the route we are trying to take. So that's point number one. What we have seen in Pakistan is that it has become a commercial banking-led market. And I'm not surprised. Capital market is dysfunctional. Non-banking finance companies are not performing and non-existent. The DFIs disappeared, so there's no project financing, there's no money for infrastructure. So what happens is that the same group which controlled, the financial assets, they have, after privatization, are controlling the banking system. And there's a collusion between the state and this group, which is, a cozy relationship which goes on. And particularly, if you look at the economic theory of the financial economics, the countries with weaker laws and implementation capacity of dispute resolution, they tend to move towards the conservative, less risk-taking financial intermediaries like banks, rather than developing the capital market, because people will not trust the capital market in that kind of situation, and that reflects Pakistan's situation. So I'm not too surprised. Now, my few things which I think we need to start pondering about for future. First, as I genuinely think, like many reforms, Pakistan is not ready for a major change. And the evolution of the sporting structure is just not there. What we do is that we get pushed by a few powerful groups, be it international financial institutions or donors or some powerful individuals. So the only reform which has taken place is the handing out financial banking sectors to the private sector, which has shown some success in terms of cleaning the non-performing loans, some innovation. But if you look at it, the outreach of financial services have really declined. And what I would like to highlight here is, and I've been part of it, as Nadeem teases me all the time, what donors have done is that they have, very conveniently changed the focus towards something we call financial inclusion. So financial inclusion, and that too towards, transfer of funds through digital modes. Nobody is talking about the structural reforms. And that's the same thing when I told the Prime Minister that ease of doing business alone will not bring investment. So what we are doing is that will not, mobilize resources and allocate it to the productive users. So what I'm trying to say is that a serious lack of understanding that how, the countries have developed is lacking. And that's where I think PIDE can play a role through effective communication to the key people. First of all, people need to own that, we do need a capital market. And I totally agreed. Some of you might have seen my paper, which I wrote after leaving the World Bank when I was a researcher in the UK. I argued the same, and Shamshad Akhtar was the caretaker finance minister. She asked me to present, and I told all the brokers that if we close down the market, nothing will happen. So, why state should worry and why state is supporting you. So this is where we stand, and starting from scratch is nothing. So I think at this point in time, particularly when we are going through a period which is going to come when there will be huge pressure on resource mobilization, GDP will go down, the fiscal deficit will go up. I still think that if we do some advocacy that, government should look at raising some money for some of their needs, which they are fulfilling through taxpayers' money. And I've spoken to the people in power. They agree with the idea in general, but they really don't know how to do it. So, for instance, some of the infrastructure or housing or construction, that can be moved off budget so that the budget resources can be efficiently allocated to some of the things of recovery of the economy. Similarly, with 250,000 investors, we are all the time when something happens to the market, the first thing politically brokers come and talk to us when I was in the government and when I was in SCCP is that the small investor is dying. But can somebody really show me, what kind of breed this small investor is? Because the fact of the matter is that market is controlled by a few big boys and it's captured. So my basic worries at this point is that I think we should start from basics. No major reform. I might, sound skeptical. I think we are not ready for a major structural change. We should demonstrate through some pilots, like you can do a bond for a municipal bond or an infrastructure bond or a health bond, so that the debt market starts moving. We need to have SMEs to be supported through a secondary market, which the countries have done, because SMEs are not credit has gone down from 16% to 6%. Double the investor base, and then give targets to market to grow. And I think the regulator, frankly speaking, Nadeem, I visited SCCP after 20 years, and things have obviously gone down, but one key point is, like the government, even the regulator has not even one economist who can tell them why do you need a market. So it's basically a group of lawyers and accountants and others who are taking an approach of policing the market, not the developing the market, because the understanding of actually why do you need the market is very little. So these are few thoughts. I'm just being pragmatic and realistic that we need to do some things so that people see and value that this market is relevant. It can do some resource mobilization, but I am genuinely, the years which I see in future, I don't think we should have an ambition of any major structural reform in our economy in the near future. And donors will keep on capturing that space because of their own, cut-paste formulas, and also, in fact, quite a big incompetence in the donor side. But since they have the money, they are given space to do all this. So I won't take, go deeper into that. You can circulate my paper. I'll redo it for you. So thank you very much. So that's where we stand, in my opinion. Nadeem, you are on mute.
Sir, Nadeem Saab, apna...
Yeah, got it. Achha. Thank you. I'll just bring you an Aftab. Thank you very much, Haroon. It's wonderful. Thank you. I think once again you've illustrated the same story as in Pakistan, that we have confusion. We have confusion. Nobody wants change. Nobody demands change. We have a lack of understanding. We also have no capacity anywhere. So this situation is what we are trying to uncover in these webinars, and that's wonderful. So now Aftab Saab has unlocked his mic. So Aftab Saab, please come in. Your turn. Go ahead, Aftab Saab, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. It's been really great listening to Khalid Mirza Sahab as well as Mr. Haroon Sharif Sahab. Both of them have dealt with the subject at great length. मेरे कुछ और perspective है from the perspective of market practitioners. Khalid साहब ने obviously उन्होंने fundamental structural flaws of the market from the perspective of कि जी market regulate कैसे हो रही है, to the point of how the competition market में नहीं है. मेरे हिसाब से जो मैं समझता हूँ, being a student of this market, के 20 साल में that I've been associated with this market, हमने कुछ हद तक ट्रैवल जरूर किया है, लेकिन क्या वो जितना भी हमने ट्रैवल किया है, मार्केट को मॉडर्नाइज किया है, क्या उसका हमारी इकोनॉमी को फायदा हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ? अनफॉर्चुनेटली मैं समझता हूँ कि अगर हम नंबर ऑफ लिस्टेड कंपनीज को देखें तो मोर और लेस हमने जब ये नई सदी शुरू की थी तो उस वक्त भी द नंबर ऑफ कंपनीज वही 500-525 के करीब थी. आज भी 20 साल के बाद हमारी नंबर ऑफ कंपनीज वही हैं. इसका मतलब है कि हमने अभी तक कहीं पे भी वेल्थ एक्युमुलेशन या हमने मोबिलाइज नहीं किया कैपिटल फॉर द बिजनेसेस. कोई नया बिजनेस हमारी मार्केट में आके फंड रेजिंग के लिए नहीं आया, बल्कि ज्यादातर इश्यूज जो आए हैं वो इश्यूज आए हैं जहां पे ऑफर फॉर सेल हुई है, मीनिंग देयर बाय कि वो इन्वेस्टर वो स्पॉन्सर्स इस मार्केट में आए हैं जो अपनी इक्विटी को ऑफलोड करना चाह रहे थे और मार्केट की प्राइसिंग का या प्राइस डिस्कवरी प्रोसेस का बेनिफिट लेना चाह रहे थे. इसी तरह से अगर हम देखें कि क्या हमारी डेट मार्केट भी फ्लरिश हुई है कि नहीं, अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारी बॉन्ड मार्केट, हमारी कॉर्पोरेट डेट मार्केट, हमारी कमर्शियल पेपर मार्केट इज ऑलमोस्ट नॉन एग्जिस्टेंट. हमारे जितने भी डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं जो भी फ्लोट होता है, मोर और लेस वो इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स से सब्सक्राइब हो जाता है और रिटेल पार्टिसिपेशन इन द डेट मार्केट इज ऑलमोस्ट नेग्लिजेंट. थर्ड पॉइंट तो जो मैं अभी आपको बताना चाहूंगा वो दैट इज द रेपुटेशनल एस्पेक्ट ऑफ द मार्केट. इन 20 सालों में खालिद साहब के टाइम पे बहुत इसके ऊपर काम हुआ था टू ब्रिंग द ट्रांसपेरेंसी टू द मार्केट. हमारी मार्केट अभी भी मोर और लेस इज नोन फॉर ट्रेडिंग ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ इनसाइडर इंफॉर्मेशन. पिछले 20 साल में हमने कोई खातिर खा इस चीज के ऊपर काम नहीं किया कि हमने इनसाइडर इंफॉर्मेशन को रोकने या इनसाइडर इंफॉर्मेशन के ऊपर जो ट्रेडिंग होती है उसको डिटेक्ट करने में को खातिर का काम नहीं किया. आज भी अगर आप पाकिस्तान स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में चले जाएं या कराची की मार्केट में चले जाएं तो आपको यही पता लगता है कि जी फ्लां शेयर इज बीइंग cornered or being bought by such and such broker, yeah, Flah house is buying such and such share. So this is the level of the market कि हमारी मार्केट में जैसे ही ट्रेडिंग शुरू होती है किसी भी शेयर पे, हमें फॉरेन मार्केट से पता लगता है कि दिस शेयर इज बीइंग स्पॉन्सर्ड बाय सच एंड सच ब्रोकर एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट. So this is ये 3-4 एलिमेंट जो मैं आपको बताना चाहता था कि एक चीज कि हमने स्टॉक मार्केट डज एग्जिस्ट, स्टॉक मार्केट में लिमिटेड नंबर ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स, लेकिन हमारा ये रियल इकोनॉमी के साथ एक डिस्कनेक्ट है और ये डिस्कनेक्ट अभी तक हम खत्म नहीं कर सके क्योंकि हमारी मार्केट is not being seen or is seen as a fundraising market. हमारी मार्केट is more or less seen as a secondary market जिसपे आप समझे कि speculative trading होती है और जिसपे insider based trading होती है. चौथी चीज जो मैं कहूँगा and I think खालिद साहब ने भी इसके ऊपर कहा कि मार्केट का स्ट्रक्चर हमने ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम इस मार्केट को जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं उनको एक मोनोपोलिस्टिक इंस्टीट्यूशन के तौर पे प्रमोट किया है. आपने देखा कि 4 साल पहले 2016 में जब तीनों मार्केट मर्ज होकर पाकिस्तान स्टॉक एक्सचेंज बनी, द पर्सपेक्टिव वाज, और अगर आप मर्जर ऑर्डर पढ़ें उसका मर्जर ऑर्डर में जो आर्गुमेंट दिया गया था वो ये था कि जी तीनों लाहौर और इस्लामाबाद स्टॉक एक्सचेंज ने को खातिर खा सेकेंडरी मार्केट में इजाफा नहीं किया। लाहौर और इस्लामाबाद स्टॉक एक्सचेंज पे जो ट्रेडिंग है वो बिल्कुल नॉन एग्जिस्टिंग किस्म की ट्रेडिंग है और ट्रेडिंग वॉल्यूम बहुत कम है, इस वजह से इनका कंट्रीब्यूशन नहीं है। हमने से उस वक्त जब ये मर्जर तीनों स्टॉक एक्सचेंजेस का किया, वी लुक्ड एट ओनली वन साइड ऑफ द पिक्चर। I have been associated with Islamabad and Lahore stock exchanges, and I'm quite clear कि from the perspective of increasing the primary market share, यानी कि जो भी नए issues आ रहे थे, issues were coming from North Pakistan, लाहौर से कंपनियां लिस्ट हो रही थी, and we were working with lots of zeal and enthusiasm के नए issues मार्केट में आए, क्योंकि जब तक सप्लाई साइड नहीं बढ़ती डिमांड साइड नहीं बढ़ेगी। आज भी अगर देखें नंबर ऑफ इन्वेस्टर, डिमांड साइड को देखें कि हमारे नंबर ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स 2.5 लाख के करीब है, हमारे वॉल्यूम आर नोवेयर नियर द वॉल्यूम जो हमारे 2007 और 8 में होते थे। उस वक्त आवर मार्केट वाज टचिंग अबाउट $1 billion ट्रेड एवरी डे। आज हमारे बिलियन शेयर्स बीइंग ट्रेडेड ऑन एवरी डे। आज हमारी मार्केट में कल का जो वॉल्यूम है वो 12 करोड़ का वॉल्यूम है। तो देखें कि हमारी मार्केट इन टर्म्स ऑफ पार्टिसिपेशन भी सुकड़ी है और इन टर्म्स ऑफ मार्केट एक्टिविटी भी सुकड़ी है। इसी तरह से जो नंबर ऑफ इश्यूज आने चाहिए थे 20 साल में, जिस तरह से मार्केट में ग्रोथ हुई है, हमारा मोर और लेस स्टेगनेंट है नई कंपनीज का हमारी मार्केट में आना। 2020 में अभी पहला एक इशू जो एससीसीपी और पीएसएक्स ने गो हेड दिया है, ये वो कंपनी है ऑर्गेनिक मीट कंपनी जिसके साथ हम पिछले 3 साल से काम कर रहे हैं और पिछले 3 साल से इनको रोड शो पे लेके आ रहे थे और 3 साल से इनको प्रिपेयर कर रहे थे कि ये कंपनी मार्केट में आए। आज भी अगर उसके प्रोस्पेक्टस को ओके किया गया है तो ये भी तकरीबन 6 या 7 माह के बाद ये प्रोसेस कंप्लीट हुआ है, ओनली एट द लेवल ऑफ पीएसएक्स एंड द एससीसीपी। तो ये फंडामेंटल चीजें जो हैं ये जब तक ठीक नहीं होंगी हमारी मार्केट मेरे ख्याल में नहीं बढ़ेगी। हमें सबसे पहले मार्केट की सप्लाई साइड को बढ़ाना है। मार्केट की सप्लाई साइड को बढ़ाने के लिए आई थिंक the exchange and all the policy makers need to work on enabling the new issues to come to the market. उसके लिए क्या होना चाहिए? Obviously the documentation of the economy has to be encouraged. Documentation of the economy के साथ साथ दूसरा जो हम समझते हैं कि जो the profession of chartered accountancy, क्योंकि ये मेरा अपना ख्याल है कि these are the chartered accountants who more or less encourage the sponsors of the companies to continue to keep 2 books of accounts. इसीलिए जब भी कोई कंपनी इवन सोचती भी है मार्केट में आने का, उसको 2 से 2.5 साल लगते हैं टू कन्वर्ट टू प्रॉपर अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड। ये दूसरी चीज है। तीसरी चीज कि नॉलेज until and unless tamam professionals associated with the market go and provide knowledge to these sponsors of the companies, until and unless हम उन लोगों को ये नहीं बताएंगे कि जी मार्केट में आने से क्या बेनिफिट हो सकते हैं, तो उस वक्त तक हम इनकरेज नहीं कर सकेंगे नए स्पॉन्सर्स को, नए कंपनीज को हमारी मार्केट में आना। Am I there?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear you, Aftab. Go ahead. Don't worry.
अच्छा, so these are the things. खालिद साहब ने इस चीज की तरफ जो इशारा किया, जो मोनोपोलिस्टिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस हमने बना दिए हैं। इंडिया की अगर मिसाल ले, इंडिया में दे एनकरेज, द रेगुलेटर्स एनकरेज के नए मार्केट प्लेसेस, नई मार्केट इंस्टीट्यूशंस आने चाहिए। इंडिया जैसी मार्केट में the couple of clearing institutions, the couple of depositories, they more than 2-3 बड़ी लेवल की मार्केट्स हैं। और इंडिया में रेगुलेटर ये कहते हैं कि अगर आपके पास कोई आइडिया है तो आप आएं और आप हमसे लाइसेंस ले लें। इंडिया में दे थिंक के जी जिस तरह से मार्केट इंस्टीट्यूशंस आएंगे, जितने ज्यादा आएंगे मार्केट उसी तरह से मैच्योर होगी और कंपटीशन मार्केट में आएगा। तो ये एक कंपटीशन के एलिमेंट को भी हमने देखना है कि पाकिस्तान में हर चीज, देयर इज ओनली वन स्टॉक एक्सचेंज जो एक मोनोपोलिस्टिक हैसियत अख्तियार कर गई है। पिछले 4 साल में मैंने नहीं देखा कि इस मार्केट ने प्राइमरी मार्केट को डेवलप करने में कितनी एफर्ट की है। सिमिलरली हमारी इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकिंग इंडस्ट्री में भी जो प्रॉब्लम है वो ये है कि हम एफर्ट नहीं करते इन ब्रिंगिंग न्यू कंपनीज टू द मार्केट। हम उन्हीं कंपनीज को टैप करते हैं जो हमारे पास चल के आ जाएं और हमारे पास एक पकी पकाई किस्म का इशू जो हमारे पास आ जाए। और उस पे भी जो फंडामेंटल प्रॉब्लम जो होता है वो ये होता है कि जो हमारे लिमिटेड किस्म के इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकर या ब्रोकर टर्न फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजर्स हैं, उनके साथ भी एक चीज जो अमूमन हमारी मार्केट में मुंसलिक होती है वो ये है कि हम प्लान ब्रोकर के पास चले जाएं अपनी इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकिंग एडवाइजरी के लिए या फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजरी के लिए, क्योंकि प्लान ब्रोकर आफ्टर द लिस्टिंग हमारे शेयर को चला सकेगा। तो ये तो हमारी मार्केट की ट्रांसपेरेंसी का और ये हमारी मार्केट के चलने का अंदाज है। जो मैंने पहले भी कहा कि हमारी मार्केट में कोई भी नया इन्वेस्टर आता है या जब भी आप इस मार्केट के बारे में नॉलेज लेना चाहते हैं तो यू वॉक डिफरेंट प्लेसेस इन द मार्केट एंड यू विल कम टू नो कि जी हमारी मार्केट में ये पता है कि जी कौन किस शेयर का बैकर है, कौन किस शेयर में एक्यूमुलेट कर रहा है, कौन किस शेयर में पोजीशन ले रहा है। तो ये ट्रांसपेरेंसी का बहुत बड़ा इशू है हमारी मार्केट में। तो ये 4-5 प्रॉब्लम है जो मैं समझता हूँ कि अनटिल अनलेस हमने इन प्रॉब्लम को रिजॉल्व ना किया या इनको अटेंशन ना दी तो अनफॉर्चुनेटली मैं समझता हूं कि हमारी मार्केट इससे ग्रो नहीं कर सकेगी। शायद आने वाले दिनों में जिस तरह से हालात हैं शायद हम देखें कि हमारे नंबर ऑफ लिस्टेड कंपनीज इससे सुकड़ के 500 से भी नीचे आ गए। टेक्निकली अगर देखा जाए तो बहुत सी ऐसी कंपनीज अभी भी लिस्टेड हैं जिनकी शेयर में ट्रेडिंग ऑलमोस्ट नॉन एग्जिस्टिंग होती है और जो बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां भी हैं उनमें भी एक्चुअल जो पब्लिक सेक्टर पब्लिक होल्डिंग है वो बहुत कम है और वो कंपनी जो लिस्टेड है वो भी मोर और लेस स्पॉन्सर्स के हाथ में ही है। तो ये चीजें जब तक हम फंडामेंटली कुछ लीगल साइड के ऊपर मार्केट स्ट्रक्चर के ऊपर नहीं काम करेंगे, जब मार्केट की प्रमोशन के ऊपर हम एफर्ट इतनी नहीं लगाएंगे और जब तक हम मार्केट की ट्रांसपेरेंसी मार्केट में इनसाइडर लॉज को इफेक्टिवली इंप्लीमेंट नहीं करेंगे तो ये फंडामेंटल प्रॉब्लम हमारी मार्केट में रहेंगी। जी सर।
Thank you very much, Aftab. Sab very well put. I think you're absolutely right. I think we see this situation, which is, of course, very worrisome, very sad. And the sad thing is, Khalid, I think we are all growing older talking about this, and nothing is happening. We got a parliamentarian here. उनसे भी पूछेंगे. I think Parliament is asleep. Parliament को तो पता ही नहीं financial market क्या होती है. And ना interested है. उनको सिर्फ पता है कि development budget क्या होता है. वो development budget बस लेने की फिक्र में होते हैं. But let me bring Mr. Asad Ali Shah in. I think Khalid made a very good point, and I think Aftab also kind of hinted at it. I firmly believe I'm in league with Khalid on this. The accountants and the lawyers have a lot of blame to take because they, instead of doing their work, they are so busy stifling the market with silly laws and regulations. ये पेपर ट्रेल फॉर एग्जांपल, मुझे पेपर ट्रेल कुछ नहीं पता क्या होती है बिकॉज अमेरिका में कोई पेपर ट्रेल नहीं है, ना बरतानिया में पेपर ट्रेल है, कहीं दुनिया में नहीं है। डॉक्यूमेंटेशन क्या होती है ना अमेरिका में ना बरतानिया में, कहीं नहीं है। डॉक्यूमेंटेशन होती तो अमेरिकन इकॉनमी बैठ जाती, पेपर ट्रेल होती तो अमेरिकन इकॉनमी बैठ जाती। तो ये अकाउंटेंट्स आते हैं जब भी टैक्स रिफॉर्म कमेटी में यही बातें करते हैं तो और अपना काम ये ठीक नहीं करते। तो जनाब आई एम काइंड ऑफ बीइंग अ लिटिल बिट अग्रेसिव जान के टू क्रिएट अ डिस्कशन। असद साहब कुछ आप कहेंगे इसके बारे में, the role of accountants and lawyers?
Dr. Sahab, I need just a
Wait,
minute.
I know, Shahid, I'll come to you later. But just
I have
let me.
to leave to the secretary for the
You will,
secretary.
okay, then let Shahid say his stuff. He has to go. Hanji, boliye, Shahid sahab, boliye.
My point is that the financial markets are a function of the economy as a whole. If the economy is not doing well, you can do whatever you want with the financial markets, nothing will happen. I mean, and secondly, my other point was that the first and fundamental change that should occur to develop the market is get all the public sector enterprises listed, all the discos and all the other companies, because that is something within which the government can do immediately.
Fair point. Okay, noted. Let's go to Asad Saab, then I'll come back to the panelists after a few comments. Asad Saab, bataiye.
I think I will just say this, that the blame which is there. I mean, what was said by Khalid Mirza Saab and your summarization, there is absolutely no doubt that we have made a mess of this country, and accountants are equally to be blamed, if not more. So yes, I think I agree that accountants have also been part of the problem and less that of the solution. But basically, Nadeem, the problem is, the way I see it is that in our society, we have not promoted the culture of entrepreneurship and risk-taking. And that applies to, all sectors. The government policy, has been anti-entrepreneurship, anti-risk-taking. We have a very, very large government, and with the result that the governments do more bad than good. Now that same principle applies to the regulators as well. So unless and until I think we change our attitude, we have excessive regulation, we have very pathetic enforcement, we have excessive litigation. So we are creators of problems rather than solvers of providing solutions. So that is, I think, the major issue. These are the fundamental issues. But having said that, I think, while I agree with all the, pessimism, the criticism which has come, but at the same time, I'm still hopeful. I still have optimism, because you can see the good thing is that despite such blunt criticism coming from Mr. Khalid Mirza, he's still chairman of the policy board. Good. So we have some resilience in our system, and I think some good things are happening. Despite all your criticism, you're still, retaining as head of FIDE and doing some good work. Good point. So let us, I think, let us not give up. Okay. I think we have to bring some of these insights to the people, the decision makers, the elite of this country. The very few people in this country have benefited. There is the elite capture. We have to now convince the elite that they have to do good for the masses, for the general people also. And I'm sure, better sense will prevail, provided we continue to do and continue to strive.
I would say also themselves.
Sorry?
Go ahead. Sorry. I would say themselves too, because quite frankly, there is more money to be made if the markets work. The elite would be richer too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Acha ji, anybody else, folks? Now the floor is open. So you can go ahead, raise your hand, tell me, or go ahead, start speaking. Just don't interrupt each other, but start asking questions or comments quickly.
Nadeem sir, a suggestion.
General Sahab, ji.
My suggestion is कि माशाल्लाह इतने experts हैं हर उन financial market और इसकी
जी माइक का मेरा ख्याल
why didn't she
जी बोलिए
मेरी आ रही है आवाज
अब आ रही बताइए
ओके मैं ये कह रहा था कि इतनी ज्यादा ये जो हमारे एक्सपर्ट्स हैं सब ने बड़ा खूबसूरत तरीके से एनालाइज किया हर एक जो है वो प्रॉब्लम इंडिकेट कर रहा है कि जनाब प्रॉब्लम क्या है हमारी मार्केट के लेकिन आपने मार्केट की तरफ से किसी खास इन्वेस्टर को नहीं बुलाया जो इन सब चीजों का जवाब दे सकता अगर हम मोनोपोलीज की बात करते हैं तो वही बड़े बड़े जो बिजनेस हाउसेज हैं कराची के AKD हो गया या दूसरे हो गए इनमें से किसी को आपको बुलाना चाहिए था कि जवाब तो दे पाता ताकि कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव नहीं बट आज की बहस में तो दे वर द राइट पीपल टू रियली कमेंट कि जितने इल्जाम लगे हैं वो नेचुरली उन्हीं के ऊपर लगे हैं ना कि वो मैनेज कर रहे हैं वो इनसाइड ट्रेडिंग कर रहे हैं वो लोग जो है वो मार्केट को चलने नहीं दे रहे हमारी मार्केट इंस्टेड ऑफ क्रिएटिंग वेल्थ वो जहां मार्केट रिड्यूस हुई है इनफैक्ट इन टर्म्स ऑफ कितने कंपनीज एक जमाने में होती थी और अभी कितनी है वगैरह वगैरह सो दे वर द राइट पीपल तो एक ना एक को तो बुलाना चाहिए था आपको थैंक यू
इंशाल्लाह जरूर जी एनीबॉडी एल्स
Yes, Nadeem, can I have the floor?
जी निसार साहब बोलिए जी मेमन साहब जी निसार साहब
Okay, thank you, Nadeem. I think it's a pleasure to hear all the very learned and knowledgeable, experienced speakers on the subject. Each one of them, I must say. And for a person like me, it's a learning session too. However, I think while we all know the problems are there, I agree if the possibility of any stockbroker was there, fine, he would have probably shared his views with us. But nevertheless, I think the most important thing is you did mention at one point in time, I had my stint as a politician also, and I certainly still continue to believe that that's an area which needs to be focused also. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that there has been absolutely no focus at all from the parliament, and there was never ever, even in the finance committee that I was there was never any discussion. So we left it to the Prime Minister or the Finance Minister or the Finance Secretary or the Times that they will be handling most of the things. And the reason I'll tell you why I've been thinking, why have the politicians not been interested in this area or not focused on? The reason is that they all come from the landed aristocracy, and quite a few of them. And some of them, like smaller parties, they come from area where they don't even know this market. People like me who had invested as a time when I was at IBM, believe that this is one way to look at it. But when I looked at the market, I fully agree that it is totally dominated and it is controlled. There's a total monopoly in the sense of not the way Khalid Mirza was talking, but there is a control. Now, even then, I think very few people know about it. Now, the reason is why? Because the people and politicians are not there. Now, I think that what one can do, what the government could do, what we could do, particularly I'm looking to fight now that we have a very active Vice Chancellor there and in Nadeem. I think you should take this issue to the Parliament and present to them, taking some of these experts to them and presenting to them at this point in time that while coronavirus will be there after all, but this market is going to be there. It is already started to see some life. And I personally think it is a manipulatory situation, even as we see it now. So go to them and initiate the discussion with them. And of course, the government has its own focus right now, but I think promote this problems of the stock exchange and the country in the Parliament. I think this is one way I look at it. The other is, I think you need to prepare papers which are available to all. And person like Aftab Ahmed has really talked about all the issues that I would have talked about or I have felt all along. And he put it so beautifully. And I think go to the markets, go to the common man, because common man is really robbed in many situations. I can tell you they are robbed by the big players, and this is going to continue. And I thought that coming in of the CDC, there's only one thing I can be very happy about, is the CDC was created and I had a part of in it because I approved the decision to go turnkey offer this to the Karachi Stock Exchange when I was IBM chief executive. And that now I can see that millions of transactions are being handled, which earlier was not there. That's the only positive thing that I've seen so far, but the rest continue. I stop here and I look forward to a report that.
Thank you, Nisar Saab. I will take you up on this. We will inshallah take this to the parliamentarian with you, and you have influence there, so we shall inshallah do this. Let me bring in Nasir Akhtar Saab. Nasir Akhtar Saab is a businessman, runs a big, very successful IT company. So Nasir Saab, why haven't you gone to the stock market? Bataiye, you raise your hand, bataiye.
अस्सलामुअलैकुम जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच नदीम अलग साहब, आपने और सारे पार्टनर्स ने, मिर्जा साहब ने, आफ्ताब साहब ने बड़ी कमाल की बातें की हैं. But should I sum up in one sentence what is the mother of the evil? Is that for the past 20 years there has been discussion in digitizing automation, but it's not moving, and that is, I think, by design. Somebody somewhere, they don't want things to be exposed, and that's why I'm not talking about SCCP or the surveillance systems or other things. Everywhere, FBR, take these public sector enterprises, there is by design, there is a resistance not to automate things so that things do not expose. So वो बाबू जो है वो कागज कभी भी बदल दे, वो फाइल का वो हजार बंद खोल के से उसमें से चेंज कर लें, डॉक्यूमेंट जो मर्जी कर लें, बिकॉज ये लेवरेज आपको और कहीं नहीं दुनिया में मिलती है जो यहाँ पे है. दैट इज व्हाई there is a big failure in implementing whatever reforms you bring in, whatever kind of innovation in the process you bring. Jab tak, and I can tell you, I mean, we will continue this discussion for next 100 years. This will not happen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else, Ji? Manzoor Sahab, are you trying to say something?
I think Shamim Ahmed Khan, who's the most appropriate person to speak, he raised his hand also.
Shamim Sahab, please boliye. Of course, Shamim Sahab, I didn't notice you. Please boliye, please. Bilkul theek, shukriya. Thank you. Good to see you again. Boliye ji.
Yeah, I think I've heard with. I'm very happy that Khalid informed me about this program, and I have benefited and I have learned, and I've heard you very carefully. I think most of the things, of course, which have been said by Khalid Saab and others, they're right, and the problems that they have diagnosed are right. But I think we must look at the situation. If I may, I would just like to give you a historical perspective of what has happened to the market, because if we want to analyze as to what has happened to the market and why the market is not developed, I think you must know the factors, how the market developed. You see, our Karachi Stock Exchange was established in 1949. It was a group of 5 persons actually, who had this and who took this initiative of starting trading on the and creating a sort of a very rudimentary market. It was in 1969 that the real regulations came for the market. This was the Securities and Exchange Ordinance of 1969. At the same time, in 1970, a Securities and Exchange Authority of Pakistan was established to regulate it. So I think it was it was a progressive steps were taken to develop the market in the right direction. There were many problems in the beginning also. And I think if we can look back, I think we must not be too, of course, the problems are there and we have to sort them out. And Khalid has rightly diagnosed the issues. The market lacks depth. The market is, as he put it, is monopolistic. But I think we look at some of the good things which have also happened. Because you see, there has, when we started the regulatory framework, if Khalid Saab would remember, the Control of Capital Issues Act, which we inherited from India, when the undivided India. And that act was so regressive and was so, in fact, everything had to go through the regulator. If the company could not issue a bonus shares, the company could not pay even to the directors a certain amount of fee they wanted to. So everything was tightly regulated, and we continued with that. It was in 1995 that the then Corporate Law Authority looked at the situation and decided to repeal it. So I think, in my view, this was the first liberalization attempt which was made in Pakistan, was to do away with the regressive law, which was impeding the growth of the market. So at the same time, some attempts were made to start some non-bank financial institutions, even an investment bank. And it was in 1987 that I think, with the help of Khalid Saab, I think we established the first investment bank. Now, the problems of the investment banks were there. They were not successful. They could not operate in the manner, in fact, in which it was being done in other countries. So I think this is a progressive sort of advancement towards in the Corporate Authority, because we had in 1971 we had the Securities Exchange Authority of Pakistan. In 1980, another effort was made to combine the regulations of all the corporate laws. And it was then the Corporate Law Authority was established. It was an experiment of combining of having one regulator for not only the securities market, but also the company administration of the company law, as well as the monopoly law. So it was a very, very heavy kind of regulatory framework. But at that point of time, because the market was not very big, it wasn't a very difficult task. And then a number of initiatives were taken in that Corporate Law Authority, even the establishment of all the non-bank financial institutions, which was supposed to supplement the banking system in the country, because it was decided that the two pillars, as Khalid Saab has mentioned, of the financial system, the banking and the non-banking. And then I think there was a movement towards establishment of non-bank. Now, there are problems of the market which did not help in the development of these institutions, and that's a separate subject. So I think there's, and Haroon had mentioned that there was no constituency for establishment of a regulatory body like SECP when it was set up in 1999. I think I agree with him partly, but we must realize that it was a progressive movement. It was a progression of the experiments in having regulatory institutions in the country. The SEEP, the CLA, and then the SECP. Now, there are problems there, of course, and Khalid Saab rightly pointed out. I think Khalid Saab is right. And we established this SECP in 1999 when it was of course, with the help of the Asian Development Bank. It was important that triggered this movement. But the need for a so-called, I would say, independent organization was felt for a very long time. It was in 1999 that the law was drafted, keeping in view in the light of the many laws in the region, because around the same time SEBI was set up in India. Similarly, the Securities Exchange Commission in Sri Lanka was established. So I think this was a trend at that particular point of time to establish these bodies. So I think we just that was established. So I think there is a progression of towards establishment of an independent body. Whether it was an independent or not, that's a very different question. Now, but I think the most important thing which happened was that the Corporate Law Authority, till that time, all the regulatory bodies were part of the government. Now, this is the first time that the government decided that we had a body, at least, which was not part of the government. It was set up under a statute, and it was supposed to work as an independent body, but still, it wasn't totally independent, I must say, because at that time it was thought that since it was a movement from the regulation by the government to a private to a statutory body, a link was established with the government and with the private sector through the policy board. And I think the policy board, now there are many questions, and there are many. A lot of people would think that because this is not a kind of institution that is existing in any other country. Maybe I am not aware of that. But this was an attempt to bring in the private sector members and then naturally the government officials were there. Unfortunately, and that is an unfortunate thing. So it's not the institution itself, but it's the government which then imposed its own chairman, which I thought was a very bad, it was a regressive and retrogressive measure. And then I think, so I think this has happened at that point of time. It is only recently that we now have an independent chairman of the policy board. But I think I think many people have told me that since that SCCP cannot be considered as an independent body because because of the policy board being there, which is a link with the government. So I think there is an issue, but I think we have to look at our own realities. And I have worked with Khalid Saab even on a committee which was trying to soften the regulations. And some good work is being done there. So I hope that we are able to do away with some of the very regressive laws and the regulations which have come in. And I agree with him that the attitude of the regulator in a developing country is definitely promotion of the market as well as the regulation of the market. So it's not only the regulation. So I think it's a more difficult task for a regulator of the market in a developing country. So I thought that we should look at the overall, I just wanted to give a perspective of how things have happened in Pakistan. And I think I may also say that I think we must also realize that the region that was carved out to be Pakistan had no tradition of any financial intermediation in this region. If you recall, the Bombay Stock Exchange was established in 1876, and in 1850s there was a thriving textile business in Bombay. So I think when we look at the other countries, and now that part of India, which the British occupied earlier, became very, very advanced, even in industrialization, and therefore I think it was easy for them to sort of have a financial intermediation, and then and there was a tradition of savings. There was a tradition, small chit companies in India, thriving business and in the private sector. So I think primarily we were an agrarian economy. Punjab was definitely considered to be a sort of granary of India. So I think this is our own traditions. We don't have a very old tradition of financial markets in this region. So, but still, I would say that whatever happened in the early years of establishment of Pakistan, we could have done much better later on. And some of the progressive measures which were being taken, they were later on also stalled. I thought that we must take into account as to how we have developed, what are our issues. So it's not, we can't be compared with India, definitely, which Khalid Sahab is going to talk about also. Because there the market was much older. Their Bombay Stock Exchange and Calcutta Stock Exchange came into being, which was provided a very vibrant market in India. So I think, and then of course, a very important step which took place was, of course, the establishment of the National Stock Exchange in India, which was to compete as a competitor, competing with the Indian, with the Bombay Stock Exchange. I think now here in Pakistan, I think one possibility is a stock exchange to be established by financial institutions on the lines of the National Stock Exchange in India, and I think which should be totally professional, automated, and having an outreach to different parts of the country. Now, the National Stock Exchange itself has about 400 branches all over India. It has brokers, it has sub-brokers, all kinds of intermediaries. I thought that we must keep in mind that we are essentially have been an agrarian region, and therefore I think we don't have a very old tradition. But still, whatever, we could still have done much better than we did. And so just hand over to you, Nadeem Sahab.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you. Thank you, Ji. Thank you for a wonderful, Shameem Sahab, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for a great historical overview, which I must say I didn't know much about, but I've learned a lot. But I must say, Shameem Sahab, even no matter what the burden of history, we are living in an age where everybody is leapfrogging. Singapore had the same history, Malaysia had the same history, many people had the same history, China had no history at all. And we've leapfrogged, every country is leapfrogged. So it's time we leapfrog too. Unfortunately, in our country, we remain mired in history. Anybody else, please, or should I go back to the panel? Folks, quickly, last chance if you want to say anything. Anybody? I can't see anybody. Okay, great. So let me take this back to the panel. Now, Khalid, sorry, let me first go bring in Aftab Sahab. Aftab Sahab, मैं आपको छोटी सी बात पूछूं, प्लीज बताइए मुझे. मैं अभी बैठा हुआ हूँ, देख रहा हूँ, मैंने कहा साथ साथ ही मैं देख लूँ. मैंने SCCP की वेबसाइट देखी है. वो मुझे लगती है कि पता नहीं क्या, मतलब बस वो अपना फ्लायर और ये वो कुछ अजीब चीज़ है. फिर मैं चला गया दुबई की स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में. उन्होंने अपने प्रोडक्ट्स भी बताए हुए हैं, उन्होंने बाकी मार्केट फ्रेंडली चीज़ें बताई हुई हैं मुझे वो. फिर मैं NYSE पे चला गया, उन्होंने इन्वेस्टर को बताया ट्रेड भी कैसे करे. उन्होंने जनाब, these two websites are investor oriented website. मैं PhD किसी बच्चे को लगाऊंगा, मैं कहूँगा ये वेबसाइट सब स्टडी करके. क्या वजह है आफ्ताब साहब, आप लोग तो चाहते ही नहीं कि हम ट्रेड करें. Is that correct? बताइए इस सवालों का जवाब, और जो भी मेरा सवाल है इसका बताइए क्या ख्याल है.
2-3 वजह हैं. आपकी बात बिल्कुल ठीक है. इसी तरह से अगर आप US SEC की वेबसाइट के ऊपर जाते तो उनका सबसे पहले आपको स्लोगन मिलता है इन्वेस्टर्स एडवोकेट. I mean, they claim to be the advocate for the investors in the market, and they protect the investors. ये उनका स्लोगन है. Having said that, मैं समझता हूँ कि एक तो yes, SCCP की वेबसाइट के ऊपर मैं पहले आता हूँ, लेकिन PSX की जो नई वेबसाइट आई है ये बहुत इम्प्रूव फॉर्म एंड शेप में है. ये तो एज एन इन्वेस्टर इफ यू वांट टू लुक एट द फंडामेंटल डेटा अबाउट द मार्केट एटसेट्रा, आपको बहुत अच्छी वेबसाइट मिलेगी. और ये एक्नॉलेज भी करना चाहिए कि PSX ने बहुत अच्छा काम किया है. हैविंग सेड दैट, प्रॉब्लम विद द SCCP इज कि जी सारी चीजें अमेलगमेट करके हमने SCCP को दे दी. SCCP रेगुलेट्स द इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर, SCCP रेगुलेट्स द company's law division, the registration of the company, etc. Although 99% of the time they continue to engage themselves with whatever is happening on the market, but unfortunately इनकी website is not that investor friendly. आपको law ढूंढने हो तो law मिल जाएंगे, बाकी चीजें होंगी, लेकिन focus नहीं है. आई एम नॉट श्योर खालिद साहब ने इस चीज के ऊपर बात की है कि नहीं, आई कुड नॉट अटेंड टू दैट पॉइंट, लेकिन मैं ये समझता हूँ कि इन द डेज टू कम हमें बाइफरकेट जरूर करना होगा। हमें इंडिया में इंश्योरेंस रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटी है, इंडिया में मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट अफेयर्स एक अलहदा है जो रजिस्टर करती है कंपनीज को एटसेट्रा। हमें ये कार्व आउट जरूर करने पड़ेंगे 3 हिस्से ऑफ द SCCP, और SCCP का फोकस मार्केट प्लेस होना चाहिए और इन्वेस्टर्स प्रोटेक्शन होना चाहिए। वेबसाइट I think कि जिस तरह से अभी ज्यादा एम्फेसिस है ऑन डिजिटाइजेशन, जिस तरह से ज्यादा एम्फेसिस है कि जी डिजिटल आपकी प्रेजेंस काफी अच्छी होनी चाहिए। मे बी इन द टाइम्स टू कम दे आर एबल टू डू दिस, बट एज ऑफ नाउ यस। लेकिन ये सिर्फ इस वक्त डिजाइन फीचर्स हैं, जो मैं अभी डिजाइन फीचर्स के ऊपर नहीं जाना चाहता, लेकिन फंडामेंटल प्रॉब्लम यही है कि SCCP हमारी हर चीज कर रही है जो दुनिया में बहुत कम रेगुलेटर्स हैं, बल्कि मेरे ख्याल में शायद ही कोई इस किस्म की आपको इंस्टीट्यूशन मिले दुनिया में, जो इंश्योरेंस भी ओवरसाइट कर रही है, जो सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट को भी देख रही है और जो कॉर्पोरेट रजिस्ट्रेशन को भी देख रही है। और तो और अभी हमने मूवेबल एसेट्स की रजिस्ट्री भी SCCP में बना दी है, जो कि इस एन ऑल टुगेदर डिफरेंट फंक्शन, और वो सेपरेट एंटिटी होनी चाहिए थी, सेपरेट ओवरसाइट फंक्शन होना चाहिए था।
वंडरफुल, थैंक यू आफ्ताब साहब, थैंक यू वेरी मच। हारून साहब प्लीज आप बताइए कि ये मैं अगेन ये वेबसाइट देख रहा था और वैसे मैं देख रहा हूँ, and mashallah you have singularly been responsible through donors in terms of bringing in financial regulation in this country, so you're responsible for a lot. Can you please tell us where is financial research being done in this country? Is it only the donors? Because I don't see any research on the SCCP website, I don't see any research on the State Bank website. State Bank is doing SMEs and State Bank is doing housing, thanks to you, but not financial markets. So who's looking at financial markets? Who's even researching financial markets? How can we learn if we don't have financial markets? बाकी सवाल भी और मेरा सवाल भी ले लें।
नहीं, आपका सवाल मैं पहले एड्रेस करता हूँ। देखिए, मैंने तो बिल्कुल जैसे पहले अर्ज किया, we need to look at very basic research and basic education. I had the pleasure of working in Whitehall for almost 8-9 years. तो एक जमाने में मैं गॉर्डन ब्राउन के साथ काम करता था। तो जब मैं उससे बात करता था मार्केट्स की, ये वो जमाना है जब आपका फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम के क्रैश भी शुरू हो रहे थे। वो कह रहा था मुझे ये समझाएं जो मिसेस जोन्स को समझ आए, डोंट टेल मी दीज फैंसी टर्म्स। मेरा कहने का मतलब इस वक्त ये है, देखिए कि जो हमारे पास लिक्विडिटी है मुल्क में, उसको हमें बेसिक रिसर्च करना है कि उसको कैपिटल में कन्वर्ट करने के लिए इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स किधर है। So what the banking sector is doing is कि वो डिपॉजिट रेज करता है, सस्ते रेज करता है और खासतौर पे छोटे शहरों से करता है, and then you lend it to the government. So that's in a very crude term our banking system is doing. क्रेडिट की अगर आप हिस्ट्री देख लें तो SMEs का भी गिर रहा है, एग्रीकल्चर का भी गिर रहा है, हाउसिंग मॉर्गेजेस भी गिर रहे हैं। So we basically लिक्विडिटी को कन्वर्ट करने के लिए सवाल ये पैदा होता है कि रिसर्च करने की जरूरत है कि ये मार्केट जो है ये क्या फंक्शन कर सकती है। मैं इसमें हाईलाइट आपको पहले भी कर चुका हूँ, रिसर्च से ज्यादा perhaps you need to communicate, build tools to communicate that data to the people who matter. मैं आपको बिल्कुल बता रहा हूँ क्योंकि मेरा एक्सपोजर अभी जो हुआ भी है, पहले भी होता रहा है मैं इंटरनेशनल इदारों के साथ। एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम जो रिसर्च है, अगर तो आप डिटेल्ड एकेडमिक टाइप करते हैं उसको तो कोई देखता ही नहीं है। You need to engage with people to at least make them understand कि आपको चाहिए क्यों, इंसेंटिव क्या है, सियासतदान के पास क्या इंसेंटिव है कि मार्केट से डेवलप। So we need to ask these very basic questions कि वो क्यों नहीं इसको देखते। मेमन साहब ने कहा कि सियासतदान जो है वो ज्यादातर लैंडेड फैमिलीज से हैं। I doubt it, अब वो चेंज हो गया है, बट वहाँ समझ ही नहीं है और उसको समझने के लिए जो ब्यूरोक्रेट है उनका इतना एक कोजी रिलेशनशिप बना हुआ है कि वो तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं समझाएंगे। सो रिसर्च का सवाल ये है कि कहाँ हो रही है, मार्केट इटसेल्फ को तो उसका शौक ही नहीं है, उनकी मौज लगी हुई है। जो इदारे हैं, यूनिवर्सिटियां हैं, थिंक टैंक्स हैं, दूसरे हैं, वो आई वुड से ईदर कंसल्टिंग मोड में करते हैं या अपने इंटरनल उनका इंसेंटिव है कि पेपर उन्होंने पब्लिश करने. So what we need some applied research which can be communicated effectively on this particular issue with an aim कि मुल्क के अंदर पैसा नहीं है, हमारी इन्वेस्टमेंट टू जीडीपी रेशियो जो है वो 13% रह गई है. सो बेसिकली अगर आपने खड़े होना है तो आपको क्रिएट करने पड़ेंगे रिसोर्सेज एंड मार्केट कैन डू दिस इंटरमीडिएशन का फंक्शन. ये बड़ा बेसिक, जब तक ये बेसिक समझ नहीं आएगी, जो हम सारी बात कर रहे हैं कि हम रेगुलेशन बेहतर कर लें, गवर्नेंस बेहतर कर लें, वो आप ओवर रेगुलेट करते जाएंगे, लेकिन मार्केट जो है वो फंक्शन नहीं कर पाएगी. ये तो आपके सवाल का जवाब है. मेरा एक और बस इसमें कमेंट है कि जो जब तक हमारे अंदर, अगर इवन इन द यूके ये जो इंडिपेंडेंट रेगुलेशन की हम बात करते हैं सब, इस पे अगर आप स्टडी करें तो एक्चुअली देयर इज इंडिपेंडेंस की डेफिनेशंस हमारे मुल्क में और बाकी ममालिक में बहुत फर्क है. द कल्चर दैट वी आर फ्रैगमेंटेड, हम इंडिपेंडेंट को फ्रैगमेंटेशन के साथ ले जाते हैं and we stop talking. So basically I see the same tension between central bank and Ministry of Finance. I see the same tension between SCCP and other institutions. People need to talk while basically अपनी independence जो है वो तो आपकी statutory है, लेकिन यहाँ पर when we stop talking कि हमारी independence खराब हो गई अगर आपने हमसे बात कर ली, that is something we need to look at very carefully. Even UK में FSA में ये हुआ कि eventually कमेटी बना दी गई कि जहाँ पर बैंक ऑफ इंग्लैंड, FSA और ट्रेजरी इकट्ठे बैठ रहे थे. And to close this, where do we go from now? I genuinely think कि financial market development का कि ये क्यों जरूरी है मुल्क के लिए और ये क्यों जरूरी है, and what gains politicians can get. सारा प्रेशर आपने टैक्स पेयर के मीगर रिसोर्सेज पे डाला हुआ है और ट्रस्ट आता है बॉन्ड मार्केट से. आप कोई थोड़े कॉर्पोरेट बॉन्ड के तगड़े एसेट बैक्स इशू करें ताकि इन्वेस्टर को पता चले कि नेशनल सेविंग के अलावा वो कहीं और पैसा भी लगा सकता है. So that's all I would say. जहाँ तक डोनर्स हैं, I think वो in any case वो मॉडल पूरी दुनिया में अपना ट्रस्ट खत्म करता जा रहा है, लेकिन पैसा है उनके पास. The incentive I would humbly question SCCP की creation और सब चीजें. I think the incentive to the government at that point was taking budget support. It wasn't really setting up a world-class regulatory institution. So I will close here.
Thank you. Sadly, that is correct. Sadly, it's very correct. Unfortunately, there is no demand anywhere. So Khalid Sahab, आपके पास आ जाते हैं for summing up the seminar and for kind of giving us concluding thoughts. But I would raise these questions, put you these questions also. But I would also say, Khalid Sahab, एक बहुत बड़ा मसला जो है ना वो ये है कि you are mashallah now teaching at LUMS, at PAID. Now let's put on the other hat, जो mashallah यहाँ सारी audience का ही तकरीबन है. There is also a failure of the intellectual. We have not communicated anything. We have played second fiddle to the donor, and the donor is kind of really, abhi main dekh raha tha, I'm studying 2 or 3 reports of the government. सब कुछ डोनर ने किया हुआ और सब कुछ SDGs. लगता है हमारा तो अपना दिमाग है ही नहीं. मेरा ख्याल खालिद साहब मुझे बताइए, have we gone back to colonialism or did we ever get free? I don't think we ever got freedom. ये तो colonial निज़ाम चल रहा है. सिर्फ they figured out a cheaper way to colonize us, just colonize our minds and forget about our bodies. Khalid Sahab, over to you. Sum up the seminar. Please go ahead. क्या हो रहा है आपका? वो नहीं है, माइक नहीं ऑन हो रहा?
खालिद साहब का माइक बंद है शायद.
खालिद साहब माइक ऑन करें.
एक मिनट. हाँ, ऑन हो गया.
हाँ,
Is it on? Okay.
हाँ, अब हो गया. बोलिए.
I said first of all, you say many things in one sentence. It's very difficult to keep track. Okay, but be that as it may, I'll attempt. First of all, I ain't no intellectual.
Okay.
Okay. And I don't know what intellectuals do and how they think. That you ask Harun, he'll tell you what intellectuals do. Okay, he'll tell you what. Okay, so I am not in a position to comment on the intellect part. But what I am prepared to comment is, first of all, Harun was right when he said that whatever we do, it's what is dictated for the sake of getting some money. Okay, right? And this is happening today. The Asian Development Bank is dangling $600 million. It's on the end of a stick. There is a thread, and there are $600 million. Kabhi udhar le jate hain, kabhi udhar le jate hain. The government keeps trying to snatch it here, there. They're trying to get hold of that money, and they're prepared to sell their souls for it.
Sound like a video game.
Okay, including, let me tell you, the SECP Act itself is being devastated by this ADB. Because of some vested interests who have got to the ADB, okay, and you see, ADP has sent a bunch of consultants here, okay. Now I can tell you who the consultants were. One was a chap called David White. He was a whitey from Hong Kong. Frankly, he knows nix about markets. I can tell you this. I met him and I've assessed him. I can tell you he knows nothing. And he's not even an economist, what Harun was talking about. He ain't no economist either. So he is just a schmuck that you got there. Then you got somebody from England, she was some kind of a jurist, okay? And actually, notwithstanding the fact that our law here is the same common law tradition, she had very little understanding of the law in Pakistan and what makes it tick, okay? So, and she was stubborn. She wasn't prepared to listen. Then there was another consultant, I won't take his name, okay, local, right, who was in fact involved in the 2013 to 2018 disaster, this over-regulation, whatever happened in the market, despite what Shamim Sir talked about, the earlier progression that was done, here was a period that we actually collapsed. And this person was involved in that to the full, and he has been actually part of the ADB team as one of their consultants. It's like going on Hajj and taking Satan with you. Okay, that's what was this situation. And then there were people. I mean, there was some mention, some talk about policy board and so on. And let me just comment on that. Okay, the policy board was set up at that time, and there was a reasoning and a basis behind that. And that was the government didn't want to let go of their domain. Okay, so this thing was created. It was in between the government and the SECP as a part of the regulatory apparatus. So we have two institutions which are the regulatory apparatus. What the government used to do vis-a-vis the Corporate Law Authority was transferred to the policy board that consisted of almost equally eminent people from the private sector and top-notch civil servants. So you have this policy board that was doing virtually what the government used to do, because after all, at the end of the day, the government is responsible to the electorate. So you can have a functionally independent regulator. I would mention about difference of the word. The regulator is supposed to be functionally and operationally independent, but not, the regulator is a part of the government's economic team and has to work in terms of the economic frame of the government. And the government reserves the right to be involved in regulation, to be involved to approve the budget, to be, when they make any fees and charges, it's the government that approves it, and to have oversight over them, and to have, the account is this person, this regulator does the enforcement mostly, he has to be accountable somewhere, and this is to the policy board. But this was a system. So when you talk of the regulator in Pakistan, you're talking of two bodies, the SECP and the policy board. Together, they constitute the regulatory apparatus. Now, if you look at this regulatory apparatus consisting of these two, you will find it is more independent than anywhere in the world. I can assure you, SEBI doesn't have that independence, which it has here. The problem is that for 15 years or so, this policy board was supine, non-functional. Government advisor was the head, the finance secretary was the head, and it was not doing anything. Then since November 18, when I took over, when they reconstituted the policy board, okay, and I became chairman of the policy board, we started doing what the law expected us to do. Now that caused consternation within the SECP because they didn't like it. Now what did they do? Propaganda. Oh ji, hamare usme interfere karte hain, hamare affairs mein interfere karte hain, intervene karte hain. This is the lie. There was no such thing. We were doing only what we were supposed to do, and Harun, we were talking to them. It's not that we weren't talking. There is no question of that. We were talking here, we were talking to the government. But there was a narrative. Now, The people in the market, okay, appreciated what we were doing, but of course there was some vested interest that didn't like it. Okay. Now those vested interests did a political bargaining with the government, because at that time they made somebody who was the chairman, who was actually quite useless. Okay. They said, well, if you want to remove him, ye to mera banda hai. इसको आप निकाल तो फलाने के बंदा फलाने को भी निकाल दो, मुझे किसी को लगा दिया, किसी के साथ उसको भी निकाल, and legally incorrect, unlawful. I got the High Court to suspend the order. Okay, not stay, not a stay, which is hold your horses. It's not that. It's suspend. This is a foul. We'll hear the government and then we'll see what we have to do. Now that was what was done. Now what did these vested interests do? The ADB team comes here with a bunch of schmucks with them. What they do is they tell the SECP that all you have to do is to get rid of this policy board. This policy board is the problem. They are interfering in our affairs, right? So they were orchestrated from doing that. And the suggestions which they have made, this ADB team, okay, apart from other matters, literally, as it were, makes the policy board impotent. And what will happen then? Because then this regulator will have no check on it, nothing, okay? And we know what it is, right? So we have to look at, and as Harun pointed out, which is correct, the government will buy it because the government wants 600 million. They could have asked them for much more. They would have done. And I told the government, I said, why don't you abolish the policy board and let the SECP deal with the joint secretary in the ministry. Let them face there. But now I don't know which way the camel will sit. But this is the situation right now, and frankly, it really stinks. There's no other word for it. Now, Harun mentioned that the question of advocacy, the question of you have to talk, the question of that you have to sell. The fact of the matter is the policy board is not doing anything. We are, or neither have I in my earlier remarks advocated anything different other than saying remove the onerous regulation, okay, which the government has nothing to do, okay, and just let the market work. That's all I'm saying. That's all the ask us that he can bear, witness to this. This is all that we are doing. We are saying, let the market work. Why don't you get the market to work? And in your regulation, let it be disclosure based. So this is not vis-a-vis government. This is here. There is no selling that has to be done. The only people who are affected are the vested interests in the market, some vested interest in the market, and talking to them, communicating with them is like you go to a bunch of wolves and you tell them, please become vegetarians. They will not become vegetarians because they are meat eaters. Okay, so we have to take the bull by the horns. It has to be done. And if you have people within the regulator, within one part of the regulator that is sold to those vested interests, it won't happen. But so ours has been this struggle, and we are up against the international institution, okay, that has been bought hook, line, and sinker, okay, with a bunch of schmucks, which they call themselves consultants. You've heard the word in that Doonesbury ad. He said, well, I con and then I insult, and that is why I consult. This is what I mean when I say I consult. Okay, so this is what is happening here. Okay. So anyway, this is one part. The issue is, and that when it comes to talking, communicating, right, this is what we should be doing. But there is very little actually to talk about other than to say, let's enforce the law, let the market work. The whole issue is that right now, nobody in Parliament, not the mandarins of the Ministry of Finance, not the politicos there, not the henchmen there, which goes round and round in circles over there. Nobody has any interest because it is not in their interest. Everybody looks at it right now from their interest point of view. No matter what you say that this is going to do this for the market or that for the economy, that's water off a duck's back. Who cares what happens to the economy? Who cares what happens to the capital? If it works, it doesn't. And then they do put marriage as sare chor, as sare ye, as sare. That's what they do. That's not entire. That's not true. This is what we are up against. That is why, despite the historical perspective that Shamim Saab gave you of what was done good, the way in which the market actually progressed, the way in which regulation actually progressed, right up till 1999, in fact, up to 2002, 2003, has gone zilch down. And you had this period which I told you about, that was a total, complete, outright disaster. This 2013 to 2018. I hope you are recording this because it should be.
Yep, we are.
2013 to 2018. This is disastrous. This actually, when you say 70 years, what have we to show? Perhaps in 2012, we may have had something to show. But in 2018 and thereafter, there's very little to show. Now, let me just go back in time. The clock goes back. 1992, yours truly, an official of the ICP, Investment Corporation of Pakistan, walks into the office of Mr. Firwani. Who was Mr. Firwani? Head of UTI in India. Just for your information, he's the first batch of IBA in Karachi. His family went over to India then, and the fellow progressed. And he was a dabang fellow, very active, very aggressive, very, bunch of, he was really a live wire. I walked, he says, well, we have a crisis of investor confidence. We have a settlement crisis. We have this crisis. We have that crisis. Can IFC help us? I said, what do you want to do? He said, like the fort of Golconda, I want another stock exchange that is spread all over the country and that is totally, digitized, and that actually is not owned by the stockbrokers. It's owned by the All India institutions. This was the first demutualized stock exchange that he was talking about in the world. And IFC took up the challenge. I took a team there after having got South Block to agree in Delhi. A team worked there and we set up the National Stock Exchange in India, which was a completely different institution from the Bombay Stock Exchange, run on completely different lines. Ethos was different. It was modernized. It was, it demutualized. It was doing trades on the basis of T+2, etc., etc. Bombay Stock Exchange at that time was T+28. Okay, and even then the settlement would not occur. There would be a market in unsettled trades after that. So it was, now that gave tough competition to the Bombay Stock Exchange. The Bombay Stock Exchange per force had to, change, right? For their own, earnings, they had to change. The other stock exchanges in India, there were 24 at the time, they got merged into about 4. Okay, and those 4 stock exchanges also improved. Now, 1992, why am I talking 1992? In 1992, the stock market in Pakistan, the stock market here was 1/7 of the Indian market. The Indian market was 7 or 8 times the Pakistan market. The trading in the Pakistan market compared with the Indian market was 4 or 5 times the trading here. You know the situation now. The Indian market is 100 times our market in size, and the trading is 60 times our trading, 50 to 60 times our trading. So this is what competition does. This is what, when a market really works, does. It's not that the ethos is different, ours and theirs. And we have other examples in the subcontinent. You have Bangladesh. It's done much better. Okay, why? Although you have 2 stock exchanges in that small country, you also have ECNs, you also have alternative trading systems. You have that in India as well. You have about 10 or 12 of them. Okay, here, yours truly, in the year 2002 or 2003, actually, when I was leaving the SECP, I tried to set up allow what I did in the enemy country, I tried to do it in my own country, okay, an ECN type institution, I wanted to set up a completely demutualized, completely modern stock exchange based on matching of transactions. I tried to do that here. I had 2 stockbrokers in that, Khadim Ali Shah Bukhari, Jahangir Siddiqui. The Asian Development Bank was also an investor, okay? And 1 or 2 other institutions were also in investors, okay? These people went to the court. The court gave a stay order. The government backed them. The government in court backed them. Can you imagine? The government backed them, knowing what I was trying to do based on the example which we had in front of them, which I had communicated to them no end, yet the government backed them. That is the unholy alliance between the vested interests in the market and the Ministry of Finance. We are up against that. When you say what has caused the market not to improve, this is it. Here you have today an egregious report. I gave lots of comments on it, on the Asian Development Bank report. I'm sure it's gone through thick 1 year here and it's out there. Maybe it's just been filed. But the government is interested in $600 million. Asian Development Bank, if it says stand on your head, they stand on their head. This is the situation right now. Now, Aftab mentioned something which I've got to take issue with. He said merger of the 3 stock exchanges. It was not a merger. 2 stock exchanges were delicensed. 1 stock exchange were let to remain. It was done by force by the regulator. Okay, right? And since then, the market has not seen an upward path. The market has only seen an upward path. I'm not talking about trading. I'm not talking about market going up and market going down. I'm talking about what does a market do? The market has to mobilize resources. Has it? After that, the market has to do proper price discovery. And Mrs. Jones may not understand this, Harun, but the transactions impact assessment, the transactions impact cost has to be low. Okay, this here it has gone up. Okay, so you are talking about a market that is becoming by the day dysfunctional. Are we doing anything about that? No, we are not. I know we're looking at these regulations. There used to be further issue of capital regulations. Okay, here, 35 pages. Asad knows, we sat down with the SECP. Okay, we cut them down to about 8 or 9 pages, just the bare bone. Yet even now, one provision which they have there, which we think should not be there, which is actually against the company law, but the people in the SECP have their eyes hooked on it, is the underwriting of rights issues, which makes no sense at all. Okay, they have got it over there. Okay, we said, okay, Khasmanu Khan, let's do it. At least we have achieved so much. Similarly, there were lots of other things which we've done in the last 18 months, but people's noses are out of joint. Okay, they don't like it. And General Saab talked about humne ilzam lagaye hain, and that we should have had those people here said, I am not doing any ilzam. I am not critical. I am stating pure facts. If they sound like ilzam, let them. But the fact is that this is the situation. And we are up against this. We are up as I told you, government apathy, resistance within the SECP because of certain people which are there. I would like to repeat here that the chairman is actually a good guy. He actually is trying to understand. He's decent. He comes apparently from a good family. I don't know, but he seems to be, at least listening and trying to understand and trying to do something. But there is dross all around him. I mean, what does he do? So but yes, he has actually. Question which I had to address at the end. Last question, which I wanted to actually talk about. And this, first of all, I want to tell you one thing before I address the last. We are a communitarian society. We cannot distinguish between profits and profiteering. Anybody that makes a profit, there's something wrong with him. Because profiteering and profits, I remember in Lahore, there was this chap whose name I forget, and even I remember his name, I wouldn't have said that. He set up 50 Sulzer looms. Nadeem, you might know.
I remember,
okay.
Yeah.
50 Sulzer looms he set up and made a ton of money. all over Lahore, all over Lahore, it was फेरे लगन हो गए, पता नहीं किस तरह ऐसे बनाए, पता नहीं फेरे लगन हो गए, जैसे कि he took some drugs and made some money out of that. The fellow put, so we don't, because we don't like profit. Anybody who makes a profit, there's something wrong with him, something bad. Okay, so we have that big issue now. Okay, now just my last point, which I wanted to make. I know I'm a little disjointed here, and I apologize for that. But last, do we need a stock exchange at all? Is my point. Because if we have these days, with the kind of electronics that are in place, if you have electronic trading and you have ECNs, okay, operating in a country, you don't really need this stock exchange. I mean, frankly speaking, I can tell you, I'm predicting this now, and God help me, okay, I may well be, wrong. 10 years from now, many countries will not have any stock exchanges. There's no service which they provide, frankly. Right now, there's nothing. Okay, they are a platform to, to transactions. They don't really raise the money. That's not really done. So they are likely to become passé. What we have to work towards, and the regulator should work to, is setting up and allowing, permitting, facilitating other trading systems in the country, even if you don't allow another stock exchange, which somehow you start shivering when somebody even talks about that. Okay, because some people in the Karachi market, okay, some are big guys, they're politically connected, and you're running scared. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. That is a wonderful summing up. You're absolutely right. I remember I was teaching a financial markets course somewhere in Africa, and 2 or 3 people turned up from these little African countries and said that all these multilateral or donors are advising us to set up stock exchanges. Do we need stock exchanges? And it woke me up. I began to think. I said, why should these little why should Botswana have a stock exchange? Why should, Senegal have a stock exchange? But I never thought I'd think about this day when I would say that Senegal stock market is doing better than Pakistan, which is crazy. So you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, Khalid,
Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Jordan.
Everybody. Sadly, we are confused people. Our concepts are unclear. We are suspicious people. We are the only country in the world that calls ourselves corrupt. General Saab always tells me I'm pessimistic, but the point is our officials are always calling us corrupt. Our officials are always calling us cheaters. But anyway, that's beside the point. We'll take that up again. Thank you, Khalid Saab. I think this has been a wonderful seminar. It is opening up more doors. Lots of new issues have been opened up. I hope my colleagues, the researchers, will be taking this into account and we'll be writing it up.
I hope you have recorded
We'll be writing it up. We've recorded it. It's going to go up on YouTube. Yeah, it's on YouTube. We will be recording it. We will be talking to you more. We will be putting out stuff on it. We'll do another session on this. But next week, next Tuesday, we have a session on human resource management in the country. Note, because I think that's another problem. We dealt with it once before. We're going to deal with it again. And I repeat, we're a talent.
There's only one human resource in Pakistan. That's me. Okay.
So we are a talent country. We don't want talent. And so we'll take it up next Tuesday, folks. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you
for
Bye. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Khudafis.